Go straight back to the Telford ice rink where things have hotted up after the win by Richie Woodall. It's John Ashton against Marvin O'Brien. 8 3-minute rounds at middleweight.
Ladies and gentlemen, we continue live on Sky Sport with a middleweight contest of 8 3-minute rounds between, in the blue corner, wearing the white trunks with the black trim from Leeds, Marvin O'Brien. And in the red corner, wearing the blue trunks from Alfreton, the former undefeated Midlands area middleweight and light middleweight champion, John Ashton. At the weigh-in today, both boxers scaled 11 stone, 12 pounds. Your referee for this contest, Mr. Paul Thomas.
Well, we've had some quick wins here tonight for various boxers, notably Richie Woodall, and on the form book we might have another one, because O'Brien there on the right of your picture comes with the extremely unpromising statistics of 2 wins, 8 defeats and 2 draws. Ashton, who dropped Sambu Kalambe, the European champion, and cut Harold Graham before losing in both of them, to both of them in 6 rounds. But Ashton, in the blue shorts there on the far side of your picture, should be really slightly different class. What they call in the trade a marking time fight for him, or at least it is on paper.
It should be. Certainly Ashton has the qualifications that he should make easy work of Marvin O'Brien, but again, O'Brien's the sort of guy who is a big boxing fan, and you know, he likes his boxing, and I think he'll come to fight.
His real name, by the way, is David Powell, Marvin O'Brien, and he calls himself Marvin after Hagler, and you can see from the haircut why. He hasn't gone so far as to call himself Marvellous Marvin O'Brien. Wonder why.
I don't know how you guessed who his biggest hero was.
Right hand over the top from O'Brien. Ashton, who acquitted himself well in those fights with Kalambe and Graham. That was a step right into world class for him. But he's got some good names on his record. Wins over Wally Swift, Kid Milo, Kesem Clayton, Tony Burke. He's a extremely respectable performer. Right hand from him. 30 years of age now, Ashton, and O'Brien is 25.
He's boxing nice, Ashton. He's moving around. He's just caught him with a couple of nice shots there and finished off with a double left hook. So he's starting to get his work together quite a bit. O'Brien's just walking forward, trying to land with a big right hook or left hook.
O'Brien's 2 wins have been against Mike Phillips and a 5th round stoppage of Carl Harney, who wasn't a bad amateur.
Ashton's landed with a few nice single shots, but as yet he hasn't been able to get a combination. Again, he missed there with 2 shots. I think he needs to put a few shots together and make them land, and that could tell the difference in this fight.
He's doubling up on the jab there, John Ashton. And he's caught with a little sneak right hand there from O'Brien. Most of these fights here tonight so far, Glenn, it's been blink and you've missed them.
That's right. There's been some nice short, sharp ones. And this one on paper has the makings of the same sort of fight, but O'Brien's, he's not getting caught by anything. Oh, a good right hand there.
He was caught on the counter there. He missed by quite a long way, and Ashton made him pay for it with a right.
That's how Ashton should win this fight, by that. O'Brien doesn't seem to have much of a jab at all. He's relying on walking in, trying to catch with a big hook. So Ashton, being a counter-puncher, you know, should really be able to tee off on O'Brien.
Last few seconds of the first round here. Right over the top there. Just a glancing blow for O'Brien. It's been Ashton's round, but he hasn't really slipped into top gear yet. There's John Ashton. He comes from Alfreton in Derbyshire, and before everybody invades our switchboard, I think I might have said inadvertently earlier that Burton-on-Trent was in Derbyshire. It is in fact in Staffordshire. What other O-levels did I fail apart from geography, I wonder? But Ashton, area champion, formerly at light middleweight and at middleweight. still might have a fairly decent career at the top level. He's in the blue trunks, John Ashton, just to remind you. Marvin O'Brien from Leeds in the white.
O'Brien's missing badly. He's just trying to run in. I think that the one thing that he might have on his thing is having that shaven head. I think Ashton cuts it quite a bit. So Ashton's got to be careful of getting that head in his face. But O'Brien really has very little offence. He just comes forward trying to get a big swing in. And really, I think Ashton just needs to put his shots together a little bit, and he'll find the target.
You're right about the cuts, Glenn. They've been a constant problem for John Ashton during his career. He suddenly got cut. This could become very interesting indeed, and O'Brien might be lifted by it.
Well, there's nobody in the world worse to fight for cuts than a shaven-headed fighter, because they've always got a very strong bristle on their head, and when it rubs in the face, it is, it's just like putting a razor blade on there. So he's got to be very careful of that head of O'Brien.
O'Brien, by the way, has had a few problems himself with cuts. He's lost a couple because of that in the past. Sporting the touch gloves before resuming. Quite a few of the fans... Oh, he's caught with a good right hand there. I was just going to say quite a few of the fans have actually gone backstage to Richie Woodall's dressing room to continue the celebration. Now, the arena isn't half as full as it was just a few minutes ago when that Commonwealth title fight was on. Good body shots from Ashton. Did well there. Meatier look about his punches.
He's starting to get some nice shots together. He's working well to the body and then pulling it back to the head. I noticed that O'Brien smiled at Ashton there after that last combination, so I think that usually means they've been hurt.
Ashton going in with the right there. Referee having to dive in again. Just gets a bit untidy.
Ashton's making it get a little bit untidy because he's diving in too much with that right hand. He's really trying to land it big instead of just relaxing and letting his shots flow.
Last few seconds of the second round. Third round coming up here at middleweight between John Ashton and Marvin O'Brien. There is O'Brien. He's strong. He's got plenty of heart. He's shown that already. Did go 6 rounds with the useful Frank Eubanks and 8 against Cornelius Carr.
I think that was probably O'Brien's best result today, going 8 rounds with Carr, which in itself was a good result because Carr is ranked very highly.
It's going very dangerously at times with the head, O'Brien. Referee will have to watch that. Oh, the right hand just clipping him. Side of the head. O'Brien, by the way, is quite a big historian of fighting and a fan. I think he tried to buy a lot of bound volumes of the trade paper Boxing News dating back several years, but the editor beat him to it.
It just looked there as he went past O'Brien that he may have a little cut just above the eyebrows. I'm sure I've seen something.
Have a closer look at that.
It might just be an old scar that's looking a bit red, but it just looks above his left eye that there's a little bit of a cut.
He was caught with a right on that spot a few seconds ago, in fact, O'Brien. Ashton hasn't looked that impressive here so far.
He hasn't. He's looked rather raggedy. He hasn't really got his boxing off, and he looks like he's been snatching his shots and trying a little bit too hard. He's been, you know, really letting that big right hand go, and you know, he's left himself home to silly counters.
Of course, he's coming off some big fights, big occasions for him, which were opportunities to gate crash the big time, and it might be quite a hard fight for him to really get motivated for.
That's right. It's always hard when you're given an opponent at the last minute who's got a record so poor as O'Brien's. In the back of your mind, you think it's going to be easy, and you start to forget the basics. And it's never easy when you're in there. You need to get your boxing going right from the beginning, and then things you make them easier.
Half a minute to go in this third round. Bit untidy, isn't it?
It is untidy. O'Brien's starting to, you know, I think he's starting to fancy the job a little bit. He's starting to land a few himself.
He was just laughing and leering at Ashton there for a moment. Of course, that's often a sign that a fighter has been just shaken a little as we come towards the end of this, the third round.
Right, stand back.
Welcome back to the Telford Ice Rink in Telford. If you're just tuning in, the big news here tonight is that Richie Woodall, the local boy, has won the Commonwealth middleweight title, knocking out Vito Gaudiosi in the very first round against the odds here. And you're watching a middleweight contest between John Ashton from Alfreton in Derbyshire in the blue trunks, man who's been in with Sambu Kalambay and Harold Graham recently, against Marvin O'Brien, who's lost far more than he's won. Ashton, he doesn't have the reputation of a puncher anyway. He's only inside the distance when was on his debut. That was against Steve Yorath of Wales 6 years ago.
I think Ashton is winning this fight comfortably enough, but O'Brien's managed to give him problems and you know, made Ashton not look that good.
One of the better results on O'Brien's record was a draw with Quinn Painter. He's a former member of the Berman Toffs Amateur Club in Leeds. And some good fighters come out of there. Big crowd here watching. They paid between 15 and 40 pounds for their tickets tonight. 40 pounds for ringside, 15-pound tickets furthest from the ring. And by the way, they'll be having the Telford Tigers ice hockey team in action in this stadium tomorrow night, and it's cold enough, I tell you, for them to be playing here tonight.
It certainly is. Ashton's trying to get his shots off. He's throwing some nice shots to the body, but he's just not getting enough power, and he's not being allowed to get that right hand on. All of a sudden, as he gets a couple of shots going, O'Brien's too close in to get the rest on.
So far, not really a contest to set the pulse racing, if we're honest with you.
No, it's a very raggedy fight. There's, you know, the action is interspersed with lots of hold and lots of brawling and pushing around, as you can see there.
O'Brien's getting through with some decent punches. The referee almost got caught there.
He's trying hard, O'Brien. You know, he's game. He's having a go. He doesn't want to lose this fight, and he's just walking forward, trying to land some shots.
I think you're right. I think he's starting to fancy this. He's walking in. He's got in with some decent punches, and Ashton is making extremely hard work of it.
Well, at no point in the fight has Ashton really stood his ground and tried to dominate or trying to push O'Brien back. He's content to walk away, trying to land his counters on the retreat.
He then caught with the right hand then, O'Brien, and went into a sort of fake groggy phase, as if to say, oh, look how badly I'm hurt. And they touched gloves at the end of the round. back to Telford. Fifth round coming up. There's John Ashton. And referee Paul Thomas wants a word with them. Try to clean it up, the referee's telling them. I'm worried about the cuts. And I just think he's just calling for a little bit more action as well. It's been one of those fights, Glenn, really. Sometimes they always say styles make fights, and the chemistry here doesn't seem quite to have been right.
It doesn't. The styles certainly don't. You know, they clash. It's not a good fight to watch. Ashton isn't being allowed to get his boxing, you know, which he's quite good at, going. And Marvin O'Brien's content just to walk in. I think, obviously, Marvin O'Brien wants to win. He's doing what's best for him, and that's to try and get in, rough him up, you know, and throw shots. But obviously, it may be getting more and more effective, but it just doesn't look good.
Just looking a bit more reddened around the face now, Ashton, which is a little bit ominous for him, bearing in mind his cuts record. No cut there at the moment.
I thought Marvin O'Brien was cut earlier, but it looks, you know, that when we've seen in the corner that he has, you know, pretty bad scar tissue, and that's all reddened up, but it hasn't opened up yet.
Covering up quite well with the gloves there, O'Brien. Wonder why fighters do change their names. He was born David Powell. Why couldn't he fight as David Powell?
I think Marvin O'Brien maybe sounds a little bit more exciting than David Powell.
Doesn't sound more exciting to me.
I think I think it's obvious to tell that he's a big fan of Marvin Hagler, so I think he's probably took that in his honor.
We've got Fidel Castro Smith as Slugger O'Toole.
Break!
Of course, he's going back to his original name, Slugger O'Toole. He will be Fidel Castro in future.
Break! Stand back!
When you're born with a name like that, you don't really need to change it, do you? Left to the body from Ashton. Continues to be quite quiet. This the jab again from him. But this has not been that impressive a performance, to put it mildly, from John Ashton.
Ashton's landing his punches coming in, but then when he gets in, he's content to grab like that. He's not looking to step back, step out at an angle, and throw another combination.
Last few seconds of this round. Corner are saying, come on, John, to Ashton. Not very much in O'Brien's punches when he does land. He did get through with a couple there, including one decent-looking right uppercut. And O'Brien could go the full way here. It looks like he will, in fact. Last few seconds of the round. Welcome back to Telford. This, I must say, is not the most exciting fight I've ever seen. We have had excitement here tonight. Richie Woodall winning the Commonwealth middleweight title. Wreaths around the eyes here of Marvin O'Brien, the 25-year-old from Leeds. He'll be very pleased indeed if he can put John Ashton on his record and say that he went the full way with him. This is the 6th. It's due to go 8. And if it carries on in this vein, the biggest cheer of the night is going to be for the final bell, isn't it?
I think so. It's certainly not a fight that really excites the public. But O'Brien will be very pleased because I think he'll want to see the end of this fight. And at the moment, Ashton's done nothing, you know, to look that he can stop O'Brien.
But just to stress again, he's not a man with a puncher's reputation by any means, Ashton. Used to be a policeman, by the way, John Ashton. There was an apocryphal story that he once crashed a police car chasing some burglars or something. I don't know whether that's actually true. Oh, that's a good right hand from him, though. One of his best punches of the contest there, Ashton. Good, sharp, solid right to the side of O'Brien's head.
He was allowed to do that, really, because O'Brien, I mean, did a terrible opportunity of throwing a shot. He threw a haymaker right from the floor and missed very wildly, allowing Ashton to land that shot.
Stand back.
But again, I don't think it really hurt him. He's pulling himself together and he's straight back in, pushing his way back. A couple of behind the head shots there.
Ashton once took an 18-month break from boxing. As an amateur, he was pretty good. Won National Boys Club titles and 2 Midlands area championships.
Ashton's trying to assert himself a little bit more now. He's starting to try and push O'Brien back, and really this is what he needs to do. He needs to start to put a bit more authority and push the fight.
Now the referee wants another word here. And he wants a word here with Ashton's corner about something or other.
Okay, box on.
I think he was worried there that there was some coaching going on from the corner.
I know it's always very hard when you sit in the corner for coaches and trainers not to start getting a bit enthusiastic for their boy and start to do a bit of coaching. Especially, I think, when they know Ashton can do better and he's not doing it.
Yes, he's trying, but O'Brien's style is not to his liking. That's better from Ashton, working quite well behind the jab and then just going into reverse gear and making O'Brien miss. It's better from Ashton.
That's better, but he lost a big opportunity there. He allowed O'Brien to miss very wildly, and then he danced back and, you know, let the opportunity waste. A good fighter would be on him straight away.
Yeah. There's no counter punch from him.
It looks like Ashton is maybe a bit bored with this fight himself. He can't get himself motivated. You know, he's been used to fighting some good fighters, and all of a sudden, you know, he's fighting Marvin O'Brien, you know, with not a lot to go for, and he just looks as if he's bored with the whole thing.
Let's be honest about it. He's not the only one in the arena, is he?
It's very hard at this moment with a fight like this not to think about the cold.
Now then, let's have a look again at this punch from Ashton. Here's the right hand coming up from him. There it is, catches O'Brien around the side of the head. Didn't really shake him up too much, but it was one of the better punches landed from the man from Derbyshire. Ashton, I would think, would have this safely in the bag as far as the points are concerned, but a win over Marvin O'Brien isn't going to mean very much at that stage of his career. O'Brien, those 2 wins on his record, he'd love to put that a bit straighter. An evening from which he can derive a good deal more satisfaction than John Ashton at the moment. 7th round, 2 to go here. Ashton blue trunks, O'Brien in white.
Ashton needs to change styles. He's tried to move away, he's tried boxing backwards, and that's not working. The little bit of success he had was when he tried to push O'Brien back, and I think that's what he needs to do. O'Brien's getting confident on the front foot, and he's starting to get shots. You know, he's starting to throw all sorts of shots in.
Well, I think he knows Ashton can't hurt him. And he's walking through 1 or 2 and getting in with a couple of hooks of his own there, O'Brien.
That's right. Ashton needs to get the centre of the ring, take control of the fight behind his jab. Which he could do easily because O'Brien has, you know, very little of a jab.
Come on, sort yourself out inside.
Sort yourself out inside. Let's have some clean work, says the referee, Paul Thomas.
Stand back.
Don't forget, by the way, boxing viewers on Sky Sports, we've got that big fight between Lennox Lewis and Derek Sweet D. Williams coming up for you live and exclusive at the end of April. Good right hand there from O'Brien. April the 30th is the date to be exact. Note for your diaries.
That's the best Ashton does, when he puts some shots together, when he tries to go forward. And I think that's what he's got to do. At the minute he's a bit scared to go forward and commit himself, and really he's not going to get a result in this fight, inside the distance if he didn't do it.
Yeah, Brien was just dabbing away at something there. I think there may be... Is there some kind of damage by the right eye? I'm not sure. Certainly that eye looks as if it just closed a little. There's some blood certainly by his shorts now. And I think it might be coming from the nose, actually. It's a bit puffy, that right eye, but it hasn't actually cut up yet. So Brien on the right of your picture with that problem. Good jab there from Ashton. But O'Brien is nothing if not game.
He certainly is. I mean, you can't take it away from him. He's had a go. He's took everything Ashton's threw at him, and he's still walking forward. And he's fighting in his way. He's getting in close and, you know, trying to hit on the brakes and, you know, wrestle him and push him about.
Bell about to go to end the round. So, 1 round to go here for Marvin O'Brien. How would you be scoring this so far, Glenn?
Well, I think you've got to give Ashton most of the fight. He's done the much cleaner work, although very little of it. O'Brien's tried to make a fight of it. He's basically just come in winging and swinging, trying to catch with a lucky one, although he doesn't really look to have the power. But he's tried to make a fight of it. He's tried to use his strength, and I think at times he's been effective, if only to stop John Ashton throwing some good work and catching him with anything, you know, of any importance.
Ashton really has looked a bit like a blown-up light middleweight in this contest. He doesn't look physically strong somehow at this weight. Doesn't seem to be able to push O'Brien back.
He doesn't look strong enough. And maybe, you know, he's had some tough fights in his career. Maybe it's time he had a little rest. He does look, you know, if you could describe it, a little bit stale. He lacks ideas. So, you know, it's maybe time for Ashton just to take a little bit of time out and have a rest. He's certainly got no zip in this contest.
O'Brien had his last opponent on the floor. That was John Oxenham, before losing on points. This is the last 3 minutes. John Ashton, who's fought for the British and European middleweight titles in the last year or so. But he'll need better performances than that. And this one, if he's going to fight for championships like that again, this is not a fight really to endear him either to fans or promoters.
It isn't. I mean, it certainly doesn't look like the same John Ashton that took part in them contests. But I think maybe, you know, a fight like O'Brien, who doesn't look that well, has been effective enough in that he's brought John Ashton down to his level.
Well, O'Brien collapsed backwards into the ropes there, but I don't think he was really seriously hurt. He sort of seemed to be feeling the right side of his forehead, but he's starting to look quite tired in this last round, O'Brien. Starting to breathe very heavily.
I can imagine it's been, for the fight, it's quite a tiring fight, because there's been lots of wrestling, lots of mauling, and that is the worst thing in the world for sapping your strength.
Well, we've been saying it's not been an exciting one, and of course that is true, but sometimes you shouldn't blame the fighters for that. It is just a question sometimes of the styles not quite gelling.
That's right.
They are two professional boxers out there doing their best and trying to do their job, and of course try to win the fight. That's the first thing all fighters want to do, win. If it happens to be exciting as well, all well and good.
That's right, and I think we've seen earlier on, Gary Norman shows us, you know, how difficult it is to fight with these guys.
Maybe they should have had Gary Norman and Andy Till on the bill here. Scored again by a little puncher. O'Brien there, a little showboating from him, waving Ashton in, just trying to tell him he's not been hurt at any stage again. 27 seconds to go.
Well, I think this has been I think when we hear the bell, it's a comfortable win for Ashton, but you know, for the public, not that good to watch.
And a creditable result for Marvin O'Brien, whose record isn't that great, obviously, with 2 wins and 8 defeats on his record, and the decision goes to John Ashton. He won that obviously quite clearly without looking remotely impressive, and I think he'd probably be the first to admit that, but you know, sometimes there are nights like this. Mother said there'd be nights like this, as the old phrase goes. Marvin O'Brien, from his point of view, I suppose he might be quite pleased to say he went the full 8 rounds.
Yeah,
with
I think
John Ashton.
he'd just be happy that he was in there, and he had 8 good rounds, and you know, he never got put down, and he put up a credible performance against a guy who's been in with the likes of Columbia.
Ladies and gentlemen, the referee scores the contest. Marvin O'Brien 76.5 points, John Ashton 80 points. The winner then, John Ashton.
7 rounds to 0 with 1 round scored even. That's how the referee saw that.
And your appreciations, please, Marvin O'Brien.
So Ashton is the winner, but it was not a thriller in Manila or even a thriller in Telford.
I think the cold's got to everybody. It didn't really set the place alight, did it?
No, it didn't, but Glenn had a few great wins there. I don't know, that must have been the thriller in Columbia.
Columbia. Ashton disappointed, really, didn't he? I mean, the man has been in with Errol Graham, the man has been in with Columbia, and he just didn't want to perform, did he?
Well, I think in this fight tonight, the loser won and the winner lost, because the winner was not impressive in any way.
Yeah.
And the loser, he was glad to be able to go in and go the distance with him.
Credit to Marvin O'Brien.